Okay, hello, I'm host Eric, and welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm here with famous person Lorenz Walker. Is that your name?
Yeah, that's my name.
Um, and I'm pleased to have a chance to speak with him. I've noted he's made a few comments, and he seems to have some interesting things to say. He just asked me if I had my education background. Yeah, I've worked as a teacher, admin, and I now own a school.
How many people attend your school?
Well, this year I had about, at the end of the year, I probably had about 50 debaters, and I'm taking 16, I think, to nationals here in June, which is a pretty good sized team to take to nationals.
Uh, at what level is this? Or what age are these debaters?
Middle school, mostly. I mean, I have debaters in fifth grade through 12th grade, but uh, my competition squad that debates as my own school is middle school and elementary. Is yeah, well, elementary fourth and fifth grade for speech included, but for debate it's fifth through high school. I'll probably have a lot more high school kids coming up because I I now moved location, so I'm close to a high school with a big program where I already have a bunch of my old debaters graduated go to that high school anyway. So hopefully I'll get more high school. I don't know. I prefer middle school. It's my favorite age.
Mm. I regret not joining my school's debate team when I had the chance. I think that would have been a good outlet.
Um. So, do you think that you would have been successful at debate?
I think I would probably stand a good chance.
Um. I'm gonna guess right off the bat you're probably an NT. Most people who have inclination to participate in this are NTs. Probably because that's kind of stuff we talk about, you know.
Yeah, I can. It's hard to find others with a shared interest sometimes.
Uh, I normally would do some personality typing stuff. So let's why don't we go into that a little bit and see how that goes. Um, my first question is, what size group do you prefer to hang out with? Two, three, or more than three,
The two including me, or just one other person?
including you?
I'd say probably three. Three people.
Do you feel as though how, there's a you're at a party, some guy walks in, he's quite loud, quite like sucking the air out of the room, and somewhat full of braggadocio. How do you feel about that?
Mm. He's full of. So he's like bragging and making a presentation in a way.
Well, not quite so like ridiculous as all that. Like, but
Uh,
he's full of braggadocio, which is to say he's speaking loudly and he's talking about stuff that he's doing, and he's talking about his new car and stuff like that. You know?
it disinterests me.
Okay. So your reaction to it is disinterest. I
Yeah.
think okay. Um, when you're not talking to somebody or listening, what goes on in your head?
What goes on in my head? Hmm. I'm probably just questioning things, or maybe thinking about what I should be doing, and then kind of plotting that out, but then also never executing on it.
Are you somebody who forgets to bring items with you that you mean to bring, like forget your sunglasses, forget your phone, and forget your whatever?
Yeah.
Um, do you what was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, do you think truth is discovered or created?
I think it's discovered.
Okay. Would you rather solve a problem by disrupting the problem or finding the solution?
Wait, can you repeat that again?
Would you rather solve a problem by finding a solution, like realizing that this will solve the problem, or by disrupting the problem, namely this will render the problem moot in some fashion?
So like, wait, so solving the problem or finding a way to make the problem just null, so it
Yeah,
doesn't matter?
yeah. So
I would probably want to make it just not matter, negate it.
um, okay, interesting. Uh, if you were in a group of 7 people who were castaways from a shipwreck, you were the only 7 to successfully swim through the sharks. Everybody else got eaten. Um, do you want a leadership role in that? Uh,
No, definitely not.
you don't. If you discover that the person who tries to take on the leadership role is incompetent, are you going to take some sort of action or what?
It depends on how much it's needed. If it's actually needed, then I will take on the leadership role. But if not, then I'd rather sit back and not have that authority.
How well do you follow rules?
Um, Depends on the rule. Depends on if I agree with it
Right.
or if it's practical.
Uh, do you find yourself more favoring as a consumer or more inclined towards as a creator, auditory or visual arts?
Um, can you explain that in a different way?
Do you like music better or stuff with pictures better?
I would say music.
When you are done, like, okay, I am done today, what do you think has most likely caused you to feel that way? Is it going to be frustrations beyond your control, like traffic and uh, complications with this paperwork and that paperwork? Is it going to
No,
be
definitely not.
okay? Will it be an alternative one? Would be that you just had too many people coming at you all day with too many different demands and requests, and you're just done with people. Another
Uh,
possibility would be, let me give you one third possibility. Okay. Third possibility would be that there's some problem with one specific person who's important.
um, hmm. It's a little complicated because, for one, I am pretty isolated already, so I haven't really been getting attacked by people in the sense of communicating or their needs. And then for the third option, I would say that it greatly depends on who the person is and what it's about, because just my connections with people aren't that strong, so I might not really care.
Do you feel more isolated than you'd like to be?
Only somewhat. pretty content with my level of isolation.
Hmm. Well, I mean, my initial guess is you're probably INTP, but you could be INTJ, but you don't. I mean, it doesn't really correlate that way for me with what you're saying. But do you have a type that you self-identify with?
Yeah, I've been INTP for years.
Okay. So yeah, you know, it's funny when I talk to INTPs. At first, I tend to think they might be ENTPs, and then the more I talk to them, I realize no, they're not ENTPs. ENTPs usually I can spot them right away, and and that's the thing about INTPs. I get that confusing, almost spot them, and then I go, oh, wait, that's not an ENTP. Um, so have you been interested in cognitive functions for a while now?
mm, I first did the test probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and just kind of was there, and then I have done more research on it within the last year.
What's your take on it? Do you think it's a sound model to explain how people function and why they do what they do?
I think it is pretty sound for multiple reasons. At first, I was skeptical, but just seeing how much research into it, it kind of like defined me, and things that I've thought about my own processes before, they matched with like the definitions. And on top of that, are you familiar with Dario Nardi?
Just tell me the ideas.
Okay, well, he's a professor at UCLA, and he did EEG brain scans uh, based on type, and he was able to find distinct brain activity and patterns based on type.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that kind of really sealed the deal.
That's a very INTP justification for accepting a model. See, my the reason I accept it is because to me, I can't think of other perspectives than the I, I can't think of a better set of sets than intuition, sensing, thinking, and feeling. And I can't think
Mhm.
of ways of approaching the world that don't fall into one of those sets. So in that regard, I can't really falsify it. I mean, granted, it's not exactly falsifiable. I guess you get closer to it when you do that brain scan kind of stuff. But to my mind, it's the best model I've encountered for understanding human behavior because its fundamental claim is that people approach life through one of these perspectives, and I just find that consistently reflected. I mean, they approach a given set of circumstances through one or a combination of these perspectives. I just find it adequately explicatory to uh, to win me over. You know.
Mhm.
Do you find yourself using it much in interacting? Like when you encounter people, do you try to type them? Do you think about how what they're doing is exemplifying given function?
Mm. I haven't had much opportunity to do so, but I have noticed myself thinking about that and typing the people around me.
Do you do you work or prefer certain systems over others? Like, do you do computer type stuff? Do you do philosophizing? What sort of models are
Oh,
you most favorable towards?
models or subjects.
Well, I guess you see, I would see things like activities that use models, such as computer programming, which aren't
Uh-huh.
really models so much as
Yeah.
taxonomies of functions, you know, uh, or but like for me, I tend to find those ones that are practical more tedious, and the ones that are the least practical more interesting.
So which would you prefer in that scenario?
I mean, I prefer the philosophizing, but I mean, I'm a debate coach, so I do a lot of that stuff at work too. And it,
I prefer philosophy as well.
do you feel like it's possible for you to live life in such a way that when you're on your deathbed, you'll say to yourself, "I did it all right. Yep, I got everything accomplished I needed to get accomplished. I have achieved enlightenment. I'm ready to go. I figured out how to go straight from here, past heaven to super heaven."
Um, well, that brings up beliefs,
Okay,
doesn't it?
forget about the afterlife part.
Okay, okay.
Just about if can you have lived can you have lived such that you completely feel you're ready to go and that um
Yeah, I think yes, because uh, I'm ready at any moment. I don't need some sort of overall fulfillment.
you don't?
I don't, no, I don't think so. Like, I have some things that I want to do, and maybe learn some things and undiscover, maybe just enhance my comprehension of the world. But aside from that,
What does enhancing your comprehension look like?
uh, just studying the world, observing around me.
Would you like an overarching theory to explain everything?
Uh, I would like that.
Do you
I
think
don't
it's
know if it exists or if it's possible.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think it's possible? I think there's got to be some explanation that um, provides a satisfactory, intuitive understanding of the universe. It it seems unreasonable that there wouldn't be some final explanation.
Yeah, underlying.
Well,
What's
final like they get it right. You know, that somebody figures it all out.
yeah.
Oh, that's what it all is about. That's why we're here. Why we're
Yeah.
that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I want that.
I don't know if I'm too hopeful that we'll reach that point.
Well, we're gonna have to reach it eventually because I've said I'm not gonna die until I figure it out. So since
Oh, well
I
then,
probably won't be able
you're
to
our
live
hope.
forever. So I gotta figure it out eventually.
Mm.
Do you read a lot, or do you do like internet reading stuff?
I do a lot more internet reading than book reading.
Did you go through a book reading phase?
Um, I mean, I bought some books on philosophy, and I don't. I mean, I like reading. It's a little bit of a chore.
Yeah, I never really did the reading. One thing I just didn't do. I skim a couple pages. I like I'd read something else and it wasn't assigned. There's something about being assigned a piece of work that makes me not want to do it.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's a weird reaction. Like if you are, well, it's this notion of extrinsic motivation diminishes intrinsic motivation in all situations, which is weird. Do you buy
What
that?
was that?
I
You said
mean,
external what?
extrinsic motivation. Uh,
Extrinsic motivation.
there's been a study, a couple of different studies have shown that extrinsic motivation reduces intrinsic motivation in all circumstances.
What would be an example of extrinsic motivation?
Well, let's say you were inclined to join this GoToMeeting because you were intrinsically motivated to do so, to have the
Hmm.
conversation. But then
Okay.
before you got on, I said, "Oh, well, here, I'm going to give you a free shirt." Then you'd be less inclined. If, for example, I positioned it as I didn't know that you were coming on or something, and I tried to compensate you with a free T-shirt, then somehow you would be less want to do it on your own because you're being compensated in that fashion.
Hmm.
Do you think that's true?
I don't think so. I mean, personally, in my case, I would have joined it either way, shirt or not. But that maybe that's just because of the intrinsic motivation to join it from the start.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily would eliminate your intrinsic motivation. I think it would just diminish it in some fashion. But it's an argument we ran in a debate round or on a topic earlier in the year. I found some cards on it. You know, it's it's interesting because for me, I feel very much like I've seen that happen to me in my life where I wanted to do something, but then when it became like official or formalized in some sense, or I was getting paid for it, then it wasn't fun anymore. You know,
Hmm.
but maybe that's just for certain types. I don't know. The question I was thinking right now that I'm forgetting at the moment, I wanted to ask you. Um, do you feel existential terror?
Mm, I would say it's kind of complicated because not necessarily terror, but from an early age, I did have like the existential angst and just the strong desire um, to know if there's any kind of purpose or any kind of meaning, whether or not like living as an experience is worth it.
Do you think that creating purpose is an option?
Well, depends on the person. Some people can. I don't know if I personally am suited for that.
Hmm. I think purpose is really the big question. Purpose.
Yeah,
It's. I think most people default towards altruism as kind of like the.
doing good acts for other people so that they can feel better about themselves. Or
Well, I mean, I think that if to the extent that you talk to most people about purpose and were to actually pin them down on, provide some sort of an answer, they would say, to do good works, to be helpful to others, stuff like that. I would guess would be the most common answer.
I
Um,
think maybe an answer for me would be kind of like self-actualization. So just reaching your own potential.
I think that's more or less what I'm trying to do right now. Although I'm not sure I knew that's what I was trying to do, but um,
I think it's kind of a goal that can never be truly reached, but you could aspire to get there. Kind of like Sisyphus rolling up the boulder.
oh, pretty soon, dude, I'm gonna be actual. You just wait. Just a matter. Once I've actualized enough, I become actual. Um, so probably I'll never will. uh, if you were to actualize, how would your day to day mood be different?
Hmm. If you were to reach the state,
Well, let's say one is to make progress. Let's imagine one is in on the actualization path. One is at step one,
okay,
completely self unaware. They
okay,
just think whatever they feel at the moment is absolute truth, and everybody who opposes them is evil. And then they've made it, let's say, halfway up the path, and now they're like, okay, well, I'm trying to recognize the legitimacy of that which is not me. Um, and I'm trying to do what else? What do you think? How do you think they're feeling differently, or what are they getting out of that? Or tell me more about it.
So they're becoming more aware
Well,
in
it
part
depends how
from
you
the.
want to define actualize. I've heard it defined in a number of different ways. A Jungian notion of actualization is, I guess, more or less making your unconscious functions more conscious. Some people would say the goal is to balance, to find, to find to find different ways of experiencing the world that one is less accustomed to, and to exercise those perspectives. And I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could argue. You could define it. What are your thoughts on defining it?
Hmm. Well, to me, it's more about just kind of like just becoming the best you that you could be or want to be, and just doing what you preference,
So being more being
being more you, being authentic.
okay. Uh, Authenticity expresses differently depending on forum, right? Like behaving authentically. Do you think it's going to be uniform across context? How much do you think it's going to be influenced by context? And um, how do you know when you're authentic?
I think it is going to be altered by context, um, because you would, depending on the situation that you're in, you're going to act dependent upon the circumstances.
So, what does it what does it look like to be the best you can be, or to be authentic? It seems to me that that's going to express very much in one's utilization of and need for resources. That if one is going to authentically express what one wants to do, then it depends how much what one wants to do costs.
Yeah, there are barriers.
So it would seem to me that there would be some element of achievement potentially in self improvement if one had a notion of being authentic in ways that required resources. What do you think?
What was that last part?
I'm just saying that I'm seeing then that the degree to which one is has a need for achievement is going to tie in to the extent to which one's authentic expression of self requires a lot of resources.
Yeah, I could see that unless maybe what you desire is maybe less materialistic in a sense,
Right. Well,
more
I
minimalist.
think some people maybe they're what they ultimately want and need to do is something minimalist, right?
Yeah.
But but I think that I don't think that's gonna. It might be the. It would be a path I could try to take, I suppose. It's not a path that seems very appealing to me. But
Mm. Well, it
um,
doesn't seem that appealing to me as well. That's kind of why I haven't done much.
uh, Do you feel as though, what do you think is, if you were going to direct energy to something, would you think your energy would be better directed at some sort of spiritual endeavor like meditation or at some sort of material endeavor?
Uh, Definitely meditation because I respect the introspection, and it has been proven that there's positive brain benefits from consistent meditation.
Hmm. So, do you see yourself in a substantially different place than you are now in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I would imagine so because I have the goal to um, get into and cognitive science and cognitive psychology.
Are you under 30?
Yes.
Interesting. So, what would you like to? What do you imagine yourself doing with that research, or deal with individual humans in a like therapy way?
I would say research for now because that's what's my underlying desire is for more comprehension on the brain and just human interaction and just how perception and consciousness and all those things and how everything in the brain, how it just all how yeah.
How did you feel about school, middle school, high school?
Um, I mean, it was just school. I didn't I didn't excel at all.
Did you find it unpleasant?
Yeah, I found it unpleasant just because of how it's, I think everyone finds it a little unpleasant, but
Not everybody.
no.
Not
Oh.
ESFJs. My ex-wife loved every minute of it. She
Well,
was
isn't I was reading about it. Isn't like schooling or high school and middle school is like just full of like SJ teachers?
uh I mean, I don't know about the percentages of teachers, but I would say the intuitives probably don't get stuck in education forever. At least in that kind of education. In a regular classroom school day education because it's it's fundamentally not real. They're not you're not asking the students to do real work for a real purpose. You're asking them
Yeah, to
to do
do busy
practice
work,
work or something. Like practice work so
just
that you
tons
can
of
learn.
repetition.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the way it's set up.
Yeah, I feel like the school process is it's super slow and just stale.
Yeah, well, debate's an alternative to that, which is much preferable because it's not about learning stuff for a test. It's about, are we going to go in there and win, or are we going to go in there and lose?
Hmm.
And it's not. I don't have to. The grade is takes care of itself. It's not. I don't need to create a false atmosphere of fear in order to motivate people. Fear is real. They don't want to go get their ass kicked. That's a real fear.
Yeah, whose argument's stronger?
Yeah. So I find that a lot of NTs have, well, there's a range of experiences with school. Some of them are impatiently successful at it, like some of the more driven INTPs I've talked to
Hmm.
have told me, well, I I I did it all. I put a handle on it, but I found it tiresome or something.
Yeah,
Others
if I had more
are
fire under my ass, I probably could have like done that. but
Yeah, I think, and
the
I probably
motivation
could have
wasn't
too.
there.
I probably could have too, but I didn't either. I was very
Yeah,
half-assed about school, and
the
I,
motivation's not there.
yeah, right. Well, why should there be any motivation? They're wasting their time, and the kids are indoctrinated and told so much that's not okay to point out. You know,
Yeah.
you can't say this is a waste of my time. That's why I'm not going to do it. They'll get mad at you.
Like, how are they justifying the process when it's not? I mean, it's not as effective. It's not very effective. I don't feel.
Well, I think it's effective at what is probably more important for most from a policy perspective from those who take this kind of perspective on policy anyway, is that the majority of students are not NTs. 90% of them are not.
Yeah. So they're just pandering to the majority's needs or their environment.
I think they're doing the best they can with a wrongly structured system. So if you're gonna have 2,000 kids in one set of buildings in one location unnecessarily, when you could just as easily have them all remote most of the time, we could. I mean, it needs to be most of it needs to be broken apart into a million different pieces, so that parents don't have to, taxpayers don't have to pay for education that's useless that nobody wants.
Hmm.
If you just let parents just give everybody back their money that goes to schools and just say you guys deal with it yourself. Free market will be fine. They'll take care of that shit.
I don't know much about the interactions of the markets, but I mean, it sounds right just because of how much it's ineffective.
Well, I mean, the point is, there's no reason to prefer the current requirements, for one thing. Why do students have to take all those different things that they have to take, as opposed to whatever it is that they're interested in they're going to do?
Mm,
It, schools talk about this whole lifelong learner thing, but they don't actually behave as though it were the case. If they were behaving as though it were the case, they'd understand that the learning process is one of identity building, and that the student should begin at building their identity early on based on
yeah.
what it is and what they're interested in, and what they're good at and not good at, and stuff like that, and not based on some preconceived notion about what everybody has to learn.
Hmm. Because after after high school, it's more about specialization, anyways.
That's true. I think that there are beyond specialization for jobs, though. It's it's much more about thinking skills than any other skill that you might learn in school. And if you can think well, precisely, you'll have an advantage in just about anything.
Yeah, that's why I feel that logic and philosophy should be taught at earlier ages.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the nice things about Lincoln Douglas debate is it's value debate. It's almost all philosophy stuff. The My kids get a heavy dosage of negative rights framework stuff, which I'm happy to be exposing them to because you know I want to contribute to a generation of libertarians.
Yeah, and the enrichment of their minds. Maybe hope for some people that can change things.
Well, I'll tell you this: when debaters come out of debate, they are not remotely like your average citizen. They are vastly knowledgeable about both topic and argumentation and logic and stuff. I think
Hmm.
that it shows. I think debate is one of the definitive ways to show that there's something wrong with the current system because they go so much slower than we go. So much slower. Of course, I got a bunch of really smart kids, and their parents pay a lot of money.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's not like I got just any old random group of kids. I'll concede that. But even so, the ones who can't hack debate, some plenty of the S's can no problem, and they're plenty smart. Ones who can't hack it, they probably shouldn't be in academic tracks at all. I mean, why should we have people who are not unusually good at academics spend
Hmm.
so much of their time at it?
Yeah, when they could be enhancing their other skills. I think there should be more apprenticeship jobs in America, just like there are in other countries, like Germany. Um,
I agree. I totally agree.
College, like, and then college is kind of like forced onto everybody, or at least that's the way it seems.
Yeah, it's a complete
Like
waste of
that's
fucking
just
money.
it's the one route that you have to do.
Well, in my mind, it's a complete waste of fucking money. But I understand that there are a lot of jobs that require a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Um,
So what do you do to get around these things,
well,
or can you?
well, I mean, uh, one theoretically possible thing to do is find the right employer because I don't look for that at all. In fact, you know, my staff is made up of 18 and 19-year-olds. My director, he's 19 now, 19 I think. He's just out of high school. But the reason is because I'm smart. You see, I go, oh, here are these people that everybody underestimates and that don't really have a whole lot of shit going on. And they just, it's a good plan
What's a good plan?
to utilize people who don't have those trappings of success, or the symbols of competence, we'll call them.
Hmm.
You know, people come in with symbols of competence, like a doctorate or a bachelor's degree or whatever else. Doesn't make any difference to me. For me, I'm looking for somebody who is not coming in with a sense of entitlement based on some random piece of paper that I don't even
Yeah.
respect at all.
Hmm.
I'd much rather have a competent 18 or 19-year-old who is more hungry and for whom I can make more of a difference in their life,
Yeah.
Like,
That's a situation I think I'm in right now. I am 19. I got out of high school last year.
well, I know a lot of you guys, people your age. I know a lot of people your age because of my former debaters, and I tend to stay pretty tight too. I've got a friend who's 19 and he's at UC Santa Barbara, and he was one of my first debaters back when he was sixth grader. So, uh, it's tough for an NT coming out of high school to face this complex web of society without with too much awareness of what's pointless and stupid,
And what's
and
messed up?
not a lot of leverage or places to push from to accomplish things that they want to accomplish. Not a lot of impetus, not a lot of encouragement, and not a
Yeah.
lot of affirmation.
Yeah. Or what about motivation? Do you think that's lacking as well?
Well, I think you got to kind of grow into motivation a little bit, but I think what you need is something to be excited about, something that's worth being motivated by. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, this is the
Something.
thing. You might have various ideas, thoughts, stuff you want to do. Probably it's like, well, that requires a lot of resources, or
Yeah.
you think it's such a steep hill, such a big hill in front of me that even if this is something I could do that would be not so resource intensive, it's such a long project that I'm hesitant to undertake it. That's how I would anticipate feeling.
If you were 19 NT.
Yeah, well, when I was 19 NT, and I would
Uh huh.
anticipate feeling that way now still if I were 19 and ENTP.
Yeah. I can feel that because you just see the uphill uh, struggle and
right?
how resources intensive it will be.
Well, if I were to make suggestions, and I'm not usually inclined to do so, but if I were to make suggestions, I'd say find a project that you can that allows you to to complete pieces of work that persist. So begin to stockpile pieces of your identity someplace, even if you don't want to make it public. Because I know you INTPs are big on your privacy. It's useful to stockpile all your work. You're doing work even if you just are writing in a notebook or something. Even if you just fill up
Mm-hmm.
half a page of just random thoughts and then you just quit, that's fine. We hold ourselves to too tough of a standard
I have a standard.
for quitting on shit. It's okay to quit on shit as long as you realize it's not. I have to keep that stub. You have to keep those nubs, and
Uh-huh.
then later you probably will come back to it, or maybe you won't. But if you have a lot of those nubs up there, some of them you will come back to. And it's
Mm-hmm.
important not to feel like that's a failure just because you don't make any progress on a project. You got a big project idea, you get like one page of something started, and you go like, "Oh, I'm such a loser. I only got one page started." No, that's totally successful. Just make sure you get super back burner it. Like maybe 5 years from now, I'll come back to it. But don't think it's a waste of time. Think it's as work done and accomplished and put in the bank.
Yeah.
That's more of an ENTP problem, I would suspect, than INTP, but I think it may be NTP in general. This thing about not finishing stuff and then beating ourselves up about it.
Um, if I don't finish something, I don't think it usually bothers me that much.
Hmm. I guess it's an ENTP thing. But yeah, I'm a big believer in slow projects and low pressure projects on yourself.
I
Stuff.
think I definitely prefer just getting something all done at once.
Well, yeah. I mean, so do I. I, there was a time period in my life when I couldn't. I basically couldn't do a project unless I could see the end. Like I get into it at the beginning. If it was the right amount of size of project and I could see the end of it, I get it all done at once and then it'd be done. But if it were extended, I always have had and still do have trouble thinking to myself, well, I'll do some work on this today and some work on this tomorrow and some work on the next day. It just doesn't seem to work for me.
Yeah,
So,
no, I think that's an NP thing. I was reading about it.
so instead, what I do is I say, I'm going to do a little bit of work on this now. And then when I don't finish it, I go, well, I'll maybe come back to it later. And I don't bother myself about it anymore. It ends up being like I sort of metacognate out of it a little bit by going, it's actually part of a big, big, big project that I've gotten a little piece done on a big, big, big project.
Yeah. uh, yeah, that's how you can think about it. It's kind of like maybe like a pixel composition. You get one little dot done here, and then another there, and then it ends up building up.
Yeah. Well, I think this seems like a pretty good stopping spot for this video. Anything else you'd like to add before we stop it?
No,
Okay, let me put that here.
it's good as me.
Let's see, that's 49 minutes. Yeah, that's a good sized video.
Oh
All
wow.
right, thanks for watching. Talk with
I
Ben,
think we could have
people.